Hello, welcome. I'm going to go do a demonstration in this video of just getting started with MomentJS. It's a popular library for working with dates in JavaScript. It works in the browser and in Node. And so this is going to be just a really brief getting started. We're going to look at how we can format some dates and times, and then maybe hook up a little timer so we can just display the time in our selected format. So to get started, I'm going to be using VS Code with a few extensions in order to do this. So if you don't already have VS Code or you aren't familiar with it, I would recommend going to VS Code or Googling VS Code and see if you can get that set up and learn how to use it before following along with this video. All right, so I'm going to open VS Code. I actually don't want to open my desktop. Let's make a new folder here. We'll just call this MomentJS demo. And then let's go ahead and open that with code. And then we'll go ahead and make index.html file. And I'm going to go ahead and do my JavaScript in a separate file. So I'm going to add app.js as well. And I use Emmet. It comes pre-installed with VS Code. And there's a lot of handy abbreviations. So if you work a lot in front-end development, VS Code's pretty nice that it has Emmet included. And one of the abbreviations it has is this exclamation point. So if we hit exclamation point and then I hit enter, it's going to just create the basic HTML I need to get started with an HTML document. It has all the necessary elements plus a little extra very useful ones like our meta tag for a care set and our meta tag for our viewpoint to give us some scaling parameters so that way our site looks good on mobile devices. I'm going to go ahead and give our app a title of MomentJS demo. And then we're just going to give this a header with an H1 of my MomentJS demo. And then let's go ahead and hook up the JavaScript file. And again, we're going to use another Emmet abbreviation. So script:/src is going to give me a script tag with the attribute ready to go. And now I can create a relative path to link up my JavaScript file. Now, in order to use Moment, I'm going to head over to my browser. And we're going to go to Moment. We're going to search on Google for MomentJS and CDN. And hopefully on this page we have a CDN, which we don't. So my first Google result seemed to ignore my CDN parameter. Let's put some double quotes to require it in our Google search. All right, there we go. All right, CDN.js is a nice, pretty reliable content delivery network. The other option, of course, is you can always download Moment and then just host the file yourself. But we're going to go ahead and use a CDN, so we're going to link that. You want to be sure that when you link Moment, that you create a script tag to link it before any of your JavaScript files or tags that are going to depend upon Moment and make calls to MomentJS. So there we go. Ooh, that's a lot of white space. Get rid of that. Now I'm going to hit Alt-Shift-F to format my HTML. I use an extension called Prettier to format my code. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it if you don't already have a formatter that you prefer. It not only formats HTML, but it can be used to format Markdown files, JavaScript files. If you develop in React a lot, it can also format JSX in your JavaScript. So it's and also formats JSON, a few other formats. So I really enjoy using it because it's kind of one extension to format most of the file types I work with in my day-to-day workflow. All right, so I have MomentJS linked up. We got app.js. So let's take a look at the MomentJS documentation. So we're going to go to momentjs.com, and they have some nice documentation on their website. It's a very well done library, and it's been around for a while. It's very well maintained. So to get started with Moment, we've linked it up, and Moment gives you a lot of abilities, a lot of functions to do all kinds of things. Moment includes, if we go to the docs here, you're going to see that you can parse dates, you can manipulate dates, doing adding increments of time to a date, subtracting increments of time. You can query a date for its different parts or find out if it comes before or after a date. All kinds of ways to learn about the date that you're manipulating in your code. And also what I'm going to be playing with is it gives us ways to format the date that are a bit easier and more convenient to use than the built-in functionality in JavaScript. We end up with a lot less code to write. So we've got Moment in, and for our initial look at Moment, all I'm going to do is go to app.js, and we're going to go ahead and we'll create another div here. It's where we're going to be displaying our time. So I'm going to give it an ID of time display. Oops, display. And that's just going to make that element easier to select in my JavaScript code with this ID. Now if I go to app.js, we'll say var. And you might be wondering why I'm not using let and const in this video, and mostly because I want to practice using an older version of pre-ES6 JavaScript for the most part. So I'm going to be using the var keyword exclusively in this demo. So we're going to say var, and then we're going to get our div, what did I call it? The time display element. So I'm going to say time display L. And I'll say document.querySelector, and we'll get the time display element. And we're going to, just for now, see what moment gets us out of the box. So I'm going to just make a new moment, like so. And now I'm going to use another extension that's fantastic. If you don't already have it, I highly recommend. It's called Live Server, and it gives you live reloading. So I can open an HTML file in my browser, and it will, anytime I save a file, save an update in the file or a file it links to, my browser will go ahead and automatically refresh the page. So it just saves me time while I am working on a project. So I'm going to use that to launch our index.html by right-clicking on index.html and clicking Open with Live Server. And we can see our demo. Let's go ahead and open the console. And now let's go to app.js. And let's go ahead and say .text content here. And now we can see we're getting just a date from Moment. It's giving us a current date and time for my location. We can see I'm on the Pacific coast of the US, and it's the summer, so I'm 7 hours behind GMT. All right, so let's look at how we can format a date or time. I'm going to start with time. So what I'd like to do is create just a little function that kind of like a ticking clock that just updates the time every second. So what I'm going to do is set an interval, and we're going to use a anonymous function to run every time our interval hits, and we'll just say every second here. And we're going to take our time display, take moment, but then we're going to format our time. So MomentJS gives you a format function when you use it. So you can create a moment. If you don't pass any parameters to the moment function, it just gives you the current date and time. And then we can call format, or I can call format, and use this little mini syntax here for formatting my date or time. And this table in their documentations is a useful reference. So let's go ahead and call .format here, and then I need to pass in a format. There's a couple of examples to kind of help you get familiar with how the syntax works. I want to show the current, let's just start with the current time. So hours, minutes, seconds, AM. Seems like a good start. So we'll pass a string with that format. Let's just take a look and see what I get in my web page now. And we can see that this clock is ticking along. I'm going to go ahead and add some more styling because that's awfully small. So let's go ahead and change things up in index.html. So instead of a div, I'm going to go with an h2. Now you'll notice that as I'm typing, it's changing both the opening and closing tag for me. That was a relatively new feature with VS Code. I used to use an extension for that, but newer versions of VS Code I think have that feature already baked into HTML editing. Now if we look, now we can see our time a little bit better. Right, so it's showing my time in AM, PM. I think I can capitalize that without any trouble. Let's see if it lets me do that with a capital A. Yeah, I can get capital AM, PM if I want. Let's say we want to show a little more fine-grained time here. Maybe I want to update this every 200 or every 100 milliseconds. Let's see if we can get some milliseconds or a decimal display of our seconds by studying this mini syntax for formatting dates with Moment. I'm going to scroll down and look for seconds. So here's fractional seconds. It looks like it's a capital S. So if I wanted to show tenths of a second or hundredths of a second, I could do that with a capital S or a capital SS. So let's do that. Let's add a dot S. And now we're getting a decimal representation of the current time. Pretty cool, right? All right, so rather than show the current time here, let's go ahead and add the date. And we're just going to stop. I'm going to leave it at seconds, just in order to see that there's some life without having to wait a full minute to see the change. So I'm going to leave it. We'll leave our loop at 1,000, which is 1 second intervals to update the time. Okay. I'm going to go back and figure out how we can start adding the date in however we like. So if I wanted to start with the day of the week, it's pretty simple. Just scroll down, look for a day of the week. I can represent it as a number with 1D. I can represent it as 0th through 1st, 5th, 6th, etc. If I want to look at the day of the week from 0 to 6, it looks like. I can use 2-letter abbreviations with DD. 3 lowercase d's will give me 3-letter abbreviations, and 4Ds will give me the full word for the day. So if I wanted to show the full day, I could say DDD like so. And if we go look, now we have the day of the week. So I could start with Friday and then add a comma here. There's the comma. Let's go ahead and add, after the day of the week, we'll add the month. So I can use 1 capital M if I want the numerical, the ordinal of the month during the year. So 1 for January, 12 for December. A capital M followed by a lowercase o gives me 1st, 2nd, 3rd through 12th, etc. 12th would be December, so I could say something like the 12th month of the year. In fact, let's go ahead and add that. So rather than my time display L just being one date here, I think what I'm going to do is create a new element. So we're going to say var current time L equals document.create element. I should probably only do this once, so we're going to add it up here. And we'll call this one, we'll use a H2. And then the text content for this can be, say, current time L. Let's go ahead and append the current time L. So we'll say time display L dot append child current time L. Now I'm sticking with just vanilla JavaScript, but feel free to, if you prefer jQuery or some other library for DOM manipulation, feel free to use that if you're following along. I'm going to take my time display L, append the current time element, and now we can change that to current time element here. And maybe in front of that, I want to say current time colon. Let's see if that even works. I've never tried that before. Nope, not really. Probably not the best way to do this. Let's go ahead and just concatenate current time in front of that. Current time colon space, then we'll concatenate our formatted date afterwards. So now I have my text content for the current time element. We'll make that equal to current time colon followed by the time. That's a little big. Let's go with an H. Just go with a P tag. Very good. And then we can, I'll go ahead and just increase the font on our time display L. So I'll take the time display L dot style dot font size, and we'll go to 20M. Excuse me, not 20M, 1.5M. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, let's add another element to show the current. Let's see. We'll show the current month. So we'll say var current month L equals document.create element. Add another p tag here, and then we'll take our time display element. Time display L dot append child current month L. Okay, there we go. And now we can go in our little timer here and say something like time display L dot text content equals, it is the space, then we'll take moment again, format, and we can do capital M lowercase o to get the 1st, 2nd, 11th, 12th, etc. month. And then we can concatenate on space of the year. Let's see how that looks. So it is the 9th month of the year. Oops, and we put that into time display L. That should have been current month L. And there we go. So now we have our current time, and it says it is the 9th month of the year because it's September, so that's correct. Now, I probably don't need to put this since it's the month. I doubt anybody's going to have this page open for 1 month, so I probably don't need that in my interval. I'm going to go ahead and just move that up to where I'm configuring my current time L. There we go. Let's just do a couple more, and we'll call it a video. Let me see. I'm going to put up let's do a regular full date. So we'll add one more element, var current date L document.create element P, and then I'll take current time L or time display L dot prepend. We'll put it up on top and add our current date L that I just made. This one, I don't know, every day. I mean, I know some folks, I always shut my computer down every night. Some folks I know leave their browser open, they'll have a tab open for days. So it might not be such a bad idea to put it in our loop. We could make 2 separate intervals. I don't see this really mattering, so I'm just going to put both of these dates being set every second. I think it's going to be fine. So I'm going to take my current date L dot text content, and let's go ahead and craft a day here. Actually, we can copy. This format works pretty well. The day of the week followed by the full name of the month. Sure, why not? I'll just grab that first part in this string here. So we'll put DDD, which gives me the full day of the week name. 4 capital M's gives the full month name. A capital D followed by a lowercase o gives the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 30th, 31st, etc. day for the month, for the day of the month. And then 4 capital Y's should give the 4-digit year. So that looks perfect. I'm going to copy that. And here I'm going to put, let me see, I think just moment.format, and then paste in that string I copied. Don't need the comma on the end. Save. And there we go. So here's the date I just added at the top. Here's the current time. Doesn't seem to be ticking along, which is actually kind of strange. Oh, I moved my time. I messed up earlier. I moved the time display element out of the interval, when I meant to move the month out of the interval. that would explain why. So let's go put this up with my let's see, this needs to stay here. Our text for the current month is the one that I wanted to put up here, and I can move current time down. And if you're wondering how I'm moving these lines of code down, I can take anywhere where my cursor, any line my cursor is on, and then if I hold my Alt key down and use my up and down arrows, I can move that whole line of code. If you're on a Mac, I believe it's the Option key in your arrows that will do the same. And that's allowing me to move this line of code around in VS Code. So now this should fix things. We're setting our month when the page loads up, and the current time and date are getting updated every second in the interval. That looks better. Now our clock is ticking along. Fantastic. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.